Nathan has the runner. Daisy Pearce in space inside 50. If Bannon just kicks the ball, she backs her pace in, takes 2 bounces, runs to 30. This will be a wonderful goal. Coast to coast footy from the D's.
Kickers have got nothing to go to. Blackburn through Bilardo, generates the kick. Who else? Benelli May.
Now another chance for them to go forward. Guest kicks it to Truce and up. Oh, wide. Ali McKenzie with a hanger.
Zagetti again. Strong Zagetti.
Oh, great body work from Lachlan. Chance out the back on her left boot. Brilliant. Celebrates with the fans on the hill.
And welcome back, footy fans, to another episode of Donnie's Disposals. I'm your host, Coach Donnie Hess, here, back with another AFLW review. Unfortunately, we've come to it, the end of the year. The grand final has come. It has gone. We have a premiere. We will tell you a little bit about that as we go on with the episode, but I must introduce my co-host for the round. As you can see, a couple of great co-hosts with me, including an AFLW player, but we'll start off with a really good friend of mine from the Bevy of Bloods podcast. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of a Swans feel here, I know, but stay with me. All right.
Stay with
Bevy of Bloods podcaster and host, Chris. Great to see you, Chris.
Mate, it's great to have myself here, actually. Forgetting how to talk straight off the bat. And if we are going to make it a little bit Swan Central, then by all means, let me just dig straight into this bad boy. But it's great to be here, mate. Big season, definitely the first season for me, doing the podcast for the AFLW. And it was superb. And we'll introduce our lady of the hour in a second, no doubt. But yeah, incredible season, great finish to it, and yeah, really looking forward to a long AFLW lifespan for everything we can do. I love everything about it. It's been amazing.
Totally agree with that one. And joining the podcast for the first time to do an AFLW review is defender extraordinaire and one of my favorite people to chat with, Miss Brianna Tarrant. Brianna, great to see you.
Team Tarrant.
Yeah. We're doing well, considering the situation at hand. But yeah,
Don't you love conveniently timed power outages, or inconveniently timed?
What is shining on you there?
Yeah.
Renat? Like, what is that? Is this a car that's just parked at the right angle coming into the house or something? What's going on?
look, got an array of candles, but that thing shining in my face. So be my bike light. I
love it.
But yeah, the bike light makes for a good spotlight, as you can tell.
Yeah,
definitely,
no doubt.
for sure.
All right, so yeah, start flogging that bike light. It's got money in it. Yeah,
some great initiative there. I appreciate it. Going through adversity, love it, Brianna. Absolutely, for sure. All right, so let's get to it. The granny has come. It has gone. Quick thoughts on a grand final that I thought was absolutely magnificent. A little sad that North Melbourne kind of ran out of steam late in that game, but I must say, an absolutely fantastic grand final. Chris, your thoughts on the grand final? Just right off the bat.
It's really good. It basically showed a lot about what the competition had been this year. It's just a hard contested ball where you can get up forward, and a good team like North and Brisbane are stingy as hell. In particular, the Lions are very stingy in that back line. And that's what you just need. And that contested ball in the middle was just tough. There was big hits, big crowd, big marks, big goals at the beginning there. Gardner's one. Like, it had all the makings of a really fantastic game. And I'm glad to see the crowd was there to kind of get into it as well. Although disappointed, probably 99% of them, but nonetheless, just a brilliant game and a great way to finish off a season.
Mm-hmm. Brianna, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it was probably one of the grand finals that'll go down a bit of history. And I love plenty of lead changes in there. North Melbourne got off to a good start, and then Brisbane took over, and then it was North and it was Brisbane. And it really kind of shows you what maybe the women's football, like the brand is itself. It's hard hitting. It's, fight to the death, a lot of desperation. And I guess you kind of see it to a whole nother level in a grand final. Yeah, neither team really let up until the end. Like, you kind of got to push through the lactic acid and the fatigue to keep going if you want to lift the silverware at the end of it.
Yeah, definitely. The only thing I was sad about, and again, I'll throw a little bit of the Swans here, is that Brisbane broke the record for most tackles in a game at 110,
right.
beating the Swans 106 against the Gold Coast. So little shameless plug there, I know, but it was that game. I mean, literally these two teams tackled the living crap out of each other. There was so much action in this game. Absolutely loved it. Gutted a little bit for Jenna Bruton to go down with what I believe is an Achilles tear, which absolutely I was so gutted for her, because she's been so good as that third part of a very dangerous midfield for the North Melbourne Roos. So unfortunately her injury, I think, kind of hand tied North a little bit through the center a little bit. She had been going forward. So it'll be really interesting. It was just a great game. Again, Orla O'Dwyer and Soph Conway on the outsides just showed why they just can run and run and run all day. So an absolutely insane game of footy. Thoroughly enjoyed it. So we'll go to it. We've kind of discussed it really quickly. Brisbane are again premiers, the second time ever that the Lions have won a premiership. North falling just a little bit short in the game, just the littlest bit ago. And if my communications and if my technology would work at just the right time, as we get a final score here of 44-27, a 14-point win by the Brisbane Lions. And I gotta say, this was just one of those where a little bit of efficiency and a little bit of just the conditioning of this Brisbane Lions team is ridiculous under Brendan Starcevich. It is insane how they can just go and go and go. I mean, I'll go to you, Brianna, on this. I mean, you guys had the ability to play this Brisbane Lions team. What is it about their run? Because they just seem, they're like Energizer bunnies. They just never slow down.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know if you tell, my power's come back on at a good time.
Solid.
Got very
I love it.
So no, I think Brisbane just know their strengths really well, and each person or each person in the team knows what each other are capable of. Starsh, fun fact, I think he was a few players, and he has a high level of expectation, and those girls trust him. But they were so quick to, get to the open side and transition the ball, out of where, North Melbourne's core players and their height, like where all the numbers were. So they got to the open side and used the likes of Conway and O'Dwyer and that on the outside to try and, get it forward. And then North kind of just kept kicking it to Conan and the backs, and they just transition it nicely. So played a little bit to favour the Roos, but they just know how to stand up in these games.
Definitely, for sure. So I gotta ask this, Chris. I know that, as you kind of said, you're kind of really diving into it. Did your family get to watch it? Because I know your mom is a huge Swans fan now, but I gotta ask, did you watch it with the family, or did you just get to be able to watch it yourself?
No, unfortunately, it was actually my fiance's birthday. It's not, that's the wrong way to say it, actually. That's the totally wrong way to say it. But no, it was my fiance's birthday yesterday, so we had ourselves pretty wrapped up with things to do. So I unfortunately, for the most part, had to watch it on delay. So I couldn't watch it at the time, but it was just a really good game. And like Brandon said, Kona was basically doing Tarrant-esque stuff, right? She was running around, just catching all the balls going around the place. It's like that. I mean, none of them were. I mean, they may have been one easy-ish one, but they're all contested marks. Like, it wasn't a cheap game for her whatsoever. She had to work really hard, as we lost Brenner.
Yeah, Hopefully,
Yeah.
we'll make sure and message her. We can definitely try to pad a little bit. Unfortunately, this is sometimes when you
Yeah.
deal with the internet, sometimes can be quite the pain in the rear
I,
end. So,
I was gonna say her Wi-Fi was probably turned off
mhm.
because the
So,
power was out, but now the power's gone on. Her Wi-Fi probably tried to connect and everything's fucking buggered up.
mhm.
So chances are in a second now she might be okay.
Yeah, I will definitely make sure we'll kind of slowly we'll stay in with this discussion point. But again, it's just I'm with you on that one. That Brianna Conan, she's just so good down back there. They're their defense is one of those that there isn't a lot of heralded superstars, but they just get the job done when they need to. I mean,
Yeah.
Phoebe Monahan's another one that's absolutely fantastic. Shannon Campbell played really well. They're just they do it by committee, and they do it really good. They're not superstar players, but they're really, really good. So I'm
And
definitely with you on that.
the way they flooded numbers out back too, it's like that's the reason why they were so stingy. Like
Mhm.
North were having trouble getting it deep, deep, really deep. And it just didn't help when they had, four different of the midfielders and wingers all just streaming into the place, just locking up every possession, contested, and they found a way out again. I don't quite remember the number. I'll find in a second. But the team stats in terms of the inside 50s for North were brilliant. Okay, so 34 inside 50s versus 21 for Brisbane. So plus 13 for North, yet Brisbane ends up winning the game by the extra, what's that, 5 shots at goal or something. So, yeah, Brisbane could not be more stingy. It was really, really special game. And both teams, in terms of the midfield, in terms of contested game, was phenomenal. And we only need to look at the tackle and contested ball to have a look at how it's going on. But yeah, it was just brilliant. It was a really, really good game. And it just goes to show that I think there was a perfect description of what AFLW is. And just as Tarrant was saying there earlier, where the game is contested, it's hard hitting, and it's whoever goes longest, whoever's the most in best AFLW fitness was available to win on the day. And I just think that Lions just had that extra kick in that last quarter.
Yeah, the one thing that kind of is nice with them is that they do have a little bit of that tropical thing. So I think coming into a warm game that they were so used to
Yeah.
training and stuff, it's a little bit warmer. I think it's perfect. So I think we've got Brianna back. Let's wait
There you
and
go.
see, because sometimes connection always is so much fun. This is why I record this on one foul swoop. So we will definitely see how this goes and see when Brianna hops back on with us. So we will definitely pad just a little less more. So hey, great to see you back.
Hey, this is the power turned back on. It's just like my Wi-Fi lost its marbles and it's just not working.
Yeah, that's all right.
It's okay. We can definitely pad for sure. It'll just get that little fun little part there in the podcast for sure. So all right. So I don't want to sit here and go through every single half second of this game, because again, absolutely fantastic. Both teams very good defensively. So I gotta give it. North structured up so well behind the footy. So I think this was one of those that I don't look at the score and I go, oh, this was a boring game. This was actually quite the exciting game, because the tackle pressure was insane. Like the first 5 minutes of this game, if you touched the footy, you got tackled.
Yeah.
Did not matter. I absolutely loved it, because both teams ratcheted the pressure up really, really quickly. There was no time and space. It was literally a arm wrestle until Jazzy Garner kicked that first goal early in the game. But it was like neither team could really get a section. The ball kind of ping-ponged between the center half forward lines between the two teams. So this just an incredible game. So along with the grand final, we kind of cover the season a little bit at the end of the year, and I like having a little bit of fun with this. So I want to go back a few days prior to this and go to the AFLW awards, because I think this is really, really cool, because unlike the men's that's very whitewashed, it's very boring a little bit at times. I think the AFLW awards are absolutely hilarious, because these girls get a few drinks in them and they just say whatever they want to say. And I absolutely love it. I think it is hilarious. Emma O'Driscoll's interview after she was put on the AA squad, I have never laughed so hard in my life. She was absolutely had me in stitches. So Brianna, as a player, are we seeing more of the personalities when a few drinks come in? Because I thoroughly enjoy the awards ceremony night because these girls, their personalities come out and it's absolutely fantastic.
Look, you definitely get the really raw personalities of some of these girls. We've gone 6 months without, touching alcohol for a lot of girls. So, it might be the first sip of many for some girls at the AFLW Awards. So you probably could be getting a bit of, yeah, some raw emotion there. But, like the Emma O'Driscoll, she's always bubbly. Not that I know her personally, but just the way she interacts with people through her own feed and the person that she's been as an opposition, like that's just her in a nutshell. O'Driscoll, funny, very outgoing, very loud, and yeah, willing to put her personality on show. And I think a lot of girls are like that. In this space, that we're pretty happy just showing who we are, because I guess we haven't had that real upbringing of this is going to be what my life looks like in 10 years time. I'm going to be playing football for the Swans or for Richmond or whatever. And yeah, we just didn't really know it was going to happen. And yeah, obviously a lot of, I don't know, we like to speak as well. We're very chatty. But yeah, just probably a little bit more unfiltered compared to the men, who are kind of not necessarily told what to say, but just know how to approach things differently.
It's a bit of media training, isn't it, for the men's? It's all a bit very boring. And I think the fact that and unfortunately it will come through as the AFLW becomes bigger and bigger, and more money spent in it, and there's more behind it, and girls start getting picked up and identified earlier in their careers. They're unfortunately going to be media trained, and it's going to be such a shame, because let them talk, let the personality come through. And it's only later in people's career you start to see the personality start to come out. Even like a Parker, for that instance, is a captain of the Swans, been around forever. For most of his career, has been very solid, but then later in his career, he's kind of been a bit more relaxed. I prefer the relaxedness. Let's just come out there. The only one who's relaxed and just looks like she's got media training but doesn't is Privatelli, your colleague, who seems to be just so chill and so on the ball. And when I asked her mum, does she have media training or something? She's like, nah, but she's had a microphone in front of her for quite some time, so she just is the way it is. And I was like, there you go. That's just the way she is. That's her. Like, that's what I love about it. So we need a bit of that, I think. It's good for the game.
Yep. I 100% with you. And I remember, it was Ruby Schleicher 2 or 3 years ago, like they had an interview with her, and she's the room was absolutely cracking up because she just was very honest. There is no media training. There is no, hey, this is what you can, this is what you can't say. Like, I absolutely love it. I think that there's the authenticity to it that I think is really, really awesome. So we'll go to it. Like I said, we have several awards here. I'm going to ask you both really quickly. Were there any winners when it comes to it, where Rising Star, Mark of the Year, Goal of the Year, BNF, that surprised you at all? I'll leave that up to either of you.
I think all were deserving. Courtney Hodder, you can't strip that mark away from her. That was absolutely the bravest thing you can ever ask of someone, is to put their body on the line. And she did that in that sense. I think, Goal of the Year, Greiser as well. How do you kick a goal like that, basically, facing like on the line with the goals and somehow put it through? But I think all of those goals were worthy of it, same as the marks. But yeah, I could have given it to anyone, but yeah, they're all fan voted, so it's whatever the fans like.
Well, I think I will say this though, sometimes the fan vote can get a little skewed, shall we say, because I mean, what was it there was a mark of the year, that one mark of the year that didn't even win mark of the week, because it was it was Shai Bolton, the year he won with that huge leap in the goal square against Geelong. It didn't even win that week because Collingwood fans voted a Collingwood player and that
Howell, I think it
one.
was. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Shy Bolton didn't even make the cut for it, but
Yeah.
he wins Mark of the Year, but he doesn't even win Mark of the Week.
Which is
So
kind of
that's
hilarious because Collingwood typically skews things their way. I don't know how they didn't do it this time around. So whatever you're gonna do.
a little bit too. And
Yeah.
I'll say this: I was a little disappointed that Chloe Malloy's goal in game
Oh, yeah.
one, where she literally put Alicia Eva on her rear end with the candy. I'm a little shocked that
Yeah.
one didn't get there, because that was pretty darn impressive, and the impact on the game. I thought, again, red hat Donnie. I know, ladies and gentlemen, but
Take it off,
again,
Donnie.
I look at it too, is that's a hard one to say. How that is a really difficult play, and for her to do it full speed,
Yeah.
and for her to bury it at the time of the game that she did, I kind of wish that one was there, but it unfortunately was not. It was kind of, that was tough.
That goal single-handedly made my dad a Swans fan. So my dad and Brianna would like appreciate this. Well, maybe not so much because like I'm a Sydney boy, right? And Sydney's not an AFL town necessarily, and it's definitely getting in that direction. But I took my dad to his first ever game, and I was game 1 against GWS over there in North Sydney to watch the game. And when that goal was kicked, we were on that side of the ground, and my dad just looks at me and goes, "Wow." And that was it. And he's been somewhat of a fan ever since. And this year, I think it's just going to get more intense. So that's how good it was. So if that doesn't win goal of the year for like single-handedly transforming some old fella who doesn't have a clue about AFL into AFL, what are we voting for, guys? What are we voting for here at all?
Yeah. So that was the only one that disappointed me. I'm 100% with you, Brianna. Like the mark of the year. I mean, there's no way that's not Chelsea Hata. Like it.
Yeah.
For her to go back and to know that Dakota Davidson is the one coming the other way, and she didn't even have any idea that Dakota was coming. She could have been totally cleaned up on that one. What was nuts. Caitlin, I agree with you. Caitlin Greiser's goal, I mean, was bonkers, like legitimately bonkers. Could not believe when I watched it. I was like, did like legitimately shocked the living crap out of me. The one that's kind of sad and more just because of what it showed is Ali Morfitt falling one vote short for Rising Star. And again, Zarly Goldsworthy fully deserves it. She had an incredible season for such a young player. She was so good. In fact, she still has what I think is the meme of the year, helping herself up against Gold Coast, which I had to absolutely laugh my tail off, because how she does it is hilarious. She's like, so I had to give it to her. That was absolutely classic. But to know Ali Morfitt misses 3 games and only falls one vote short of tying Charlie Goldsworthy shows how good Ali was this year. I mean, I holy shnikes to think about that, and it was just absolutely mental. So wow. So I must go there, and then we'll go to the BNF. Mon Conti, I think very well earned. I think it was almost underplayed that she had this wrapped up by round 8. I mean, the vote count once we hit round 8 was kind of like, okay, well, Mon's already won this. There's no way anybody else can catch up unless somebody goes absolutely crazy in the final few rounds. Your thoughts on this? Chris, will go to you on this one. Mon Conti, well deserved BNF on this one, because she was absolutely fantastic this season.
Yeah, she was just great. I mean, I actually didn't put her into this is my undoing, and maybe I have a good part in this. I'm very bad at playing fantasy football. I'm very, very bad at it. And I poured her up in my first week, and then I dropped her off because for whatever reason I was like, oh yeah, they're playing some other team. I'll drop her off, and then I just couldn't afford her for the rest of the season. That's how good she was. So, so I think a lot of the skills and just what happened there was probably my influence, just being as bad as I am at fantasy football. But yeah, she was just lightning all year round, just consistent, and that's the elite. That's the difference between elite and a good player. It's like the consistency. You can turn up whether it's the game's going your way, the game's not. Whether the rain, hail, or shine, home or away, you just play hard, consistent, brilliant footy. When the ball goes to you, everyone can trust it. That's Conti wrapped up all right there.
Definitely. I know everybody kind of goes into that. Jasmine Gardner is there something wrong with Jasmine Gardner that the umpires don't see? Her Jazz is just such a good player, but she's so unassuming. And again, I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean that like she's one of those, she can be quietly fantastic and she just makes impact on games. So it's like I don't know what to say. Like Mon Conti is the flash. She really shows out when she plays. She's very, very great with the footy in hand. Jazz Gardner's almost kind of that quiet assassin. Like she gets a lot of the footy, but she's really good at it. It's kind of scary to go up. I mean, Brianna, I think you've probably shared the field with Jazz Gardner. I mean, is she hard to notice sometimes? Because I'm still trying to figure out sometimes why the umpires don't notice her as much as why they don't notice her much on the field.
Well, look, she's an absolute. I'd call her a brick wall. She's so strong. She's a good runner. She does. I'm going to say the one percenters and the little things right. I think when I look at those votes, and don't get me wrong, I think Mon Conti deserved to win it last year as well. Like Mon, fantastic player. She carried that midfield this year and definitely deserves it. And I think, Jazz Garner came through late in that vote count, but she had to compete against her own teammate Riddell there, who I think Riddell ended up finishing higher than her, and even Laura Gardner as well from the Swans. Like she came, I think, equal 20th in that, and everyone expected her to poll higher, but she's competing with the Morfitts and the Malloys and that. So not to say that Richard's not just relying on one person, but I guess especially in a season where you've got Garner versus Riddell in your own team, and with Melbourne as well, and the Crows, Marinoff versus Hatchard, the Swans and Brisbane, all that sort of stuff. You've got your own teammates fighting against each other for points, and I know girls aren't playing for that in the game. You're much playing in the grand final when things come down to it, but you just strip points away from people, and I think Garner definitely deserved the players, the AFLPA MVP for that. But it's surprising because she is a very good player, maybe does fly under the radar a bit.
Yeah, definitely for sure. And that was one of those things that I saw a lot of Swans fans were pretty upset. It was like, why Laura Gardner didn't feel as well. I said, well, Chloe Malloy definitely deserved the 3 in the first game. And I think that was kind of it. Is Chloe Malloy's kind of she's very noticeable because when she makes an impact, she makes an impact. And Allie was insane this year with how dominant she was in the ruck. I think that's really why, because I kept saying, why didn't she get any? Why didn't she get any? Well, if you really look at it, Allie Morfitt and Chloe Malloy, in a lot of the games that Laura either pulled low or didn't pull, Allie and Chloe were the ones pulling because they were very noticeable in those games. So it's one of those. I'd rather have Laura be doubted a little bit because I know that she was so good this year in the midfield. She found the footy, she got it out, she was doing everything she was supposed to do. I think if you ask her, I don't think she really cares where she finishes in the AA. I think she, along with all the Swans there, are disappointed they didn't do anything more than they did. So it's one of those, they'll give up individual brilliance for the team atmosphere, which I absolutely like. So we'll get to, go ahead.
If I was Jazz's, Jazz Gardner's, her agent, I'd be saying to her, for the love of God, please change your haircut or something. Like do something, right? That's all it's going to take. You just need a funky haircut. There's a reason why some of the guys get on with this. They think they look ridiculous with half a mullet, right? I don't know whether she's willing to go get mullet or something, but something needs to change to make sure that umpire dye hair. Well, don't do that. There's half of them anyway. But like pink or blue for that matter for Kangas. Do something like that. I think that'll go a long way for making sure the umpires pay attention. Because I agree with you. I think she's a phenomenal player, skill-wise. She's just wild. She's too good. I mean, just have to look at last week in the kick from 45 for a score. The first opening goal of the game. So something like that. Like most, even forwards of any team, few of them can do that, and she's doing it, and she's doing everything else in the game. I don't know. Change your haircut, mix it up. Let's go. Let's get on with it.
Do something to get yourself noticed, Jazz.
Let's go. Yeah.
I love it. So all right. So we'll jump to it, to what I think sometimes can be the most interesting talking points for people that really dive into it, and that is the All Australian team. We will go through all of the names that made it. We will discuss who's in, who's out, and who got snubbed a little bit. So I'll be interested to hear this one. So we'll start in the defense. on this one. We'll start it. Charlotte Thomas and Chelsea Bedell will be our full back line. Emma Carney, Emma O'Driscoll, and Elise Sharon are our halfback lines. Through the centers, we see Neve Kelly, Sophie Conway, and Mon Conti. Through the guts, we have Ali Morfitt at the ruck, and Jazz Garner and Ebony Marinoff into the middle. Half forward line sees Chloe Malloy, Bonnie Toogood, Kate Hoare, and then the full forward line sees Dakota Davidson and Danielle Ponta. In the interchange, Charlie Rowbottom, Eden Zanka, Ali Anderson, Ash Riddell, and last but not least, Laura Gardner to round out this AA team. Again, we'll do our little bit of Swans part here. 3 Swans.
Sure.
Absolutely insane. Chloe and
Should have
Ali.
been 4. Like flick a coin, either McAvoy or our own Tarrant. Either one of those two could have been up there. But as I always get told by my own colleague on the podcast, if you're going to add someone in, who do you take out? And that's when it gets really difficult. That's when you really got to think hard. And looking at the interchange, goddamn, like wow, what a team.
My only issue here, and I'll say this, I hate the interchange.
Okay.
And this is only because where's your defensive rotation?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Where's your defensive rotation? Like
Don't need
that's the one issue that I have sometimes. And again, this is and I say the same thing with the All Australian and the men's. I think way too many times selectors get seduced by midfielders. And again,
Yeah.
I understand they're incredible players. Ali Anderson, Ash Riddell, Laura Gardner, Charlie Rowbottom, great players, but none of them play defense. Where's your defender? Where's your defender on the interchange? Where's your potential secondary rock? Who's your secondary rock? Is Dakota Davidson going to be your secondary rock? I mean, they kind of just throw this team to just put names there, and that really annoys me. So I did my own, and I'll premiere mine, and I know I'm gonna ruffle some feathers with this one for sure. Cannot wait for this.
Fun.
I love doing this. So Brianna, I'll go to this again as a defender. Is this a little frustrating because 4 center mids on the bench? You have Eden Zanka, who can kind of be your secondary rock, so you can kind of do that there. But after that, 4 center mids, you have no defensive backup. So as a defender, are you a little outraged again? There isn't that other defender on the bench.
Fire up.
Look, to be honest, and I've said this in another podcast, like your All Australians, your All Australian awards is probably the best recognition a defender gets. Your best and fairest, your leading goal kicker, all this goal gear, all that sort of stuff. It's very much forwards and midfielders that, rarely does. You might get a halfback that wins a Brownlow, but to be honest, like defenders don't get much recognition. People have thrown up, why don't you bring in a defenders award? But, I think it's a very selfless role, and personally, I find it very rewarding that I'm able to execute the role of a defender because it's not that easy. And for me to be able to, I'm not going to say be a master at my trade because I still have so much to work on, but to be able to do what I need to do for the sake of the team's benefit is probably a reward on its own because, again, like, could you see your full forward going down and, stopping goals for a lot of teams? Like, is that going to happen? And yeah, I mean, I don't know, you don't see the highlights of defenders because, we're doing the grunt work, we're doing the spoils, and maybe if we're lucky taking a half decent mark, but there's no fantastic goals in a defender's role or anything like that. So I don't know where do you give?
It's not. It doesn't quite have that sexy thing of like you don't have like a spoil of the year award, which should be an award, by the way. It should be an award for like running back by 20 meters and then putting up a fist to just like knock that last minute thing in a really close game. But it doesn't come across as like that,
Yeah, and I think that's one of those where it's like, and again, maybe it's the coach in me a little bit, is that I watch for that type of stuff. So as you'll notice when my team comes out here, just a littlest bit, is that I don't, and I've had this discussion with people because they're like, why didn't you get this? I said, because I'm actually making a team. I'm not just making an all-star team that would never play. Like I legitimately, when I make my squads or my teams, I literally will pick as position, not by name recognition. And again, I say this again respectfully, sex appeal. Like, it's not just about the flashy numbers. That's not the way it is. I'll say this now. It will come out before this podcast comes out. I did make an all Australian squad. I put it together. I took my time. I had some discussions with fellow fans because there were a few that several fan bases were quite a little steamed about a few players not getting in. And I'll throw this one out there, and I think Brianna will love this. Claudia Ganjaka of the Geelong Cats did not make this squad for this year's team, and she was incredible down back for Geelong. So there were a few omissions personally that I was a little turbed about, that I thought she deserved it and didn't get in. So, and again, it's all personal thought process, but I think sometimes they do go for the names and they don't always go with a team atmosphere. Again, maybe it's just me. So I've teased it enough. Are we ready? You guys want to hear my all Australian team for the year?
Can I play the part of a really angry Twitter person for no reason?
Sure, go ahead.
Every time I hear it, I'm just like, yeah, nice one, mate, and just do that and just be really negative the whole time. Cool.
If you want, but I think there's gonna be some fun with this one. So here we go.
Okay. All right.
Like I said, my squad will come out via my socials. So those that keep track of it, my squad will come out, and then I will make sure that my producer also puts out this team of the AA team of the year. So we'll start off again. I'm a coach. I've said it many times. We start off with the defenders. Starting lineup, fullback line: Jasmine Ferguson of the North Melbourne Roos and Claudia Ganjaka of the Geelong Cats will be my fullback line. Halfback line sees Emma Carney of the North Melbourne Roos, Emma O'Driscoll of the Fremantle Dockers, and Tarni Evans of the GWS Giants. I think she was really, really undervalued in this particular process. I love Elise Sharon very much so. Tarni Evans was incredible this year. I really think she deserves that. We go to the wings again. I give love to the positions. Starting wings will be Neve Kelly and Sophie Conway of the Brisbane Lions.
Yep.
In the guts sees Ali Morfitt of the Ruck. I know she missed 3 games, but I went through her statistics. They were insane. She missed 3 games and she was only down competitive clearances like 2 and had the 5th or 6th most ruck tap outs, and she missed 3 games. That was incredible. So I cannot wait to see her back fully healthy for sure from her injury. In the gut sees Jasmine Garner, Mon Conti, and Claudia Whitford will be the 3 in the center on the starting lineup for me. I think Claudia Whitford, I think she gets shown up a little bit by Charlie Robon, but I think she was incredible this year. At the half forward line sees Kate Hoare of the Melbourne Demons, Chloe Malloy of the Sydney Swans, and Chloe Shear of the Geelong Cats. At the full forward line sees Dakota Davidson of the Brisbane Lions and Eden Zanka of the full forwards. We go to the bench. I did wing, ruck, forward, midfielder, and defender. My wing, Nina Morrison. I think it was criminal that she did not get in this year because of how well she played this year. She's a great one. She is my wing backup. And the forward sees Danielle Ponta. And the ruck, Mim Strom of the Fremantle Dockers. I think she really, really deserved that. She played really well. It was really hard to decipher between her and Matilda Schultz. I think Matilda Schultz is going to be fun to watch. In the guts, the midfielder sees Georgie Prespakis. And the reason that I left the last defender spot is because I know some people are going to go, this is such a homer pick. Miss Brianna Tarrant of the Sydney Swans, because her incredible defensive marks this year, she's absolutely fantastic. I can see her blushing, and because she's probably going to play it off because that's her humbleness. I got to say it, Brianna, you deserve it. As well as you played this year, you were fantastic. There were so many Swans fans on many of the boards after game 1, when you had the 3 intercept marks against GWS that really kind of saved the game when it kind of got going. And then as the season progressed, you got better and better and better. So it was so much fun to watch you. So this is very well deserved. And again, I know some people are going to go, this is a homer pick. No, it isn't. I literally went through it. She was incredible this year. I got to watch every single one of her games. I watched many of the defenders a lot. I really kind of feel like she didn't make the AA squad for the originals, but I think she's got a really good shot of making it going forward. So again, not trying to
I
do the
was going to
homework.
jump in. I was going to jump in as the angry Twitter person, but I felt that was a really inappropriate time to do that. So sorry.
So
No, I mean, I would absolutely like. As also someone who's been following your year for sure. Yeah, and I think the first thing we said was between yourself and Hurley to kind of get your jumper in the next your blazer, sorry, in the next year or two for sure. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, definitely as the season went on, plenty of games kind of saved and they were back. The couple, Gold Coast, you were absolutely cleaning up there at the end there. Port Adelaide, you were doing a bit there as well. Of course, GWS game, our very first win in the franchise is brilliant. So yeah, can't say enough about your season. You should very much be, you should really be proud of the way you played this season. And you had a lot of swan's eyes went over to you. And when everyone's talking about what do we do with the team going forward, we know the back line is pretty well solid up. So yeah, well done.
mm-hmm. Just a little cheeky smile.
Okay.
What do you think, Bree?
Oh, can we put this one up? I like this one. No, I don't know how to react. Yeah, I'm not here for the individual accolades. I'm purely there to be a defender. But no, I appreciate it. I think a lot of defenders would love to see their name up there just for the fact of a little bit of appreciation. As I said, a few of us go a little hungry sometimes. So no, I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, I'll definitely say this, and I agree with Chris on this, is that our back line for the Swans, I think, is going to be so much fun to watch. Watching you, Lucy McAvoy, and Ella Heads grow together as a unit is going to be absolutely outstanding. Like, I cannot wait, because still young, still growing, still learning. That is a recipe for success for the future. Cannot wait for it. So,
well, I personally think we're going to be disappointed in that space, because I think Gowan's going to mix some things up. I know Brianna's not going to give anything away, but I suspect there's a bit of movement for some of the girls going on there. I think Brianna's got herself solid up there. She's not leaving. That's her spot. It looks so natural, but I think the other ones might go up a little bit. That's my suspicion.
I don't know. I really love Lucy off the halfback. So
I want them to stay, but
mm-hmm.
I got a suspicion.
Yeah. She
Let's
won't
just
give
say
anything
there's
away.
a bigger,
Say that again.
exciting stuff happening, but there's a bigger future for some players, is all I'm going to say.
I will not disagree with you on that one. So we before we wrap up on this one, I like kind of going back and doing some fun. And again, I for people listening to this, I'm going to try not to be Swan centric on this one. I'm really going to not. So I'm gonna give you a couple of categories. I just kind of want to know what you thought on this one. And it's surprise of the year. What was the biggest surprise? Was it a game? Was it a player? What is that? So we'll start with you, Chris. Your surprise of the season for season 8.
I mean, I don't want to be saying anything dark, but I would definitely say like the fact that the Bulldogs just didn't turn up. Disappointing, I think, for the competition. I was really surprised by them not having a bit more of an impact, and GWS as well. As a Sydney sider, I wanted to see the game kind of expand itself, and when the competition started and GWS got the first group of teams, I was like, good. That's what we need. We need to spend the money. We need to get involved in the area, and definitely GWS way is such a league-centric place. To see neither of them even get remotely close to being somewhat competitive is disappointing. So that was a surprise for me. I really felt that the Doggies were going to put more of a fight up. And I know there was injuries and everything that goes with it. The coaching, questionable. What happened there, and the culture there probably took a big hit. But that for me was there. I was quite surprised.
All right, Bree, what's your thought on this one?
I'm going to say my biggest surprise was West Coast getting over Essendon. Was that round 7 or round 8?
I think so. I think it was around 7.
Yeah, one of the two. They played really well, and Essendon probably didn't. But how can you not be surprised by that? So a team in the top 8 losing to, I think at that stage they were 17th. So I was on the plane coming home from Melbourne, and I think we just beaten the Western Bulldogs. Actually, funny that you say it. Showed it to my teammate, going, "Oh my gosh, West Coast have just beaten Essendon. That's a shock." So yeah.
Yeah, that kind of came out of nowhere, and that really kind of it put some fear into the Essendon supporters that I was listening to. For me, biggest surprise was how Brisbane, how to say this, Brisbane for some weird reason just they had a couple of losses that shocked me. The St. Kilda loss was that was my biggest one because it came out of nowhere. I think if you ask most pundits, most people that were watching the footy, they'll go down to Melbourne. They'll be fine. Not an issue at all. They'll handle a Saints team that they've been playing better, but the Lions are just too good. And as I watched that game going, I have never seen Brisbane unravel as badly as they did in that game. They unraveled horribly in that. So many stupid 50s and so many just ill-disciplined plays. I have never seen a Craig Starcevich team just literally absolutely tank themselves like they did in that one. That shocked absolutely everyone in the competition that the Saints could pull that one off. So for me, that is the surprise of the year is St. Kilda knocking off Brisbane when they did, because it just came literally out of nowhere. So I have a feeling with this next category, we might get an answer that I'm kind of expecting here, and that is story of the year. What is your story of the year so far? Brianna, we'll start with you.
Oh, I'm on the spot here. Ali Morfitt here. Like, I guess knowing what she went through from like this year to last year, and even knowing her history at the Giants, she had talent, and what she did was she added just a whole lot of work to her talent, and she was running 5+ Ks daily to lose a whole heap of weight, and just watching her hit it out in the gym and just how strong she got, and the way she was running the 2K time trials and doing our conditioning. Like, she was at the back of the pack last year, and this year she was up near the front runners there in that conditioning. So I really wasn't surprised when she went out and had such a cracker first game and got the rising star. And I really wasn't surprised because of how hard she worked, but that really is a story that you'd write a book on.
Mm-hmm. Chris, yours?
Well, I was just going to add in there with Morfitt's one. She actually quite inspired me when she was like, she just decided to just knuckle down and do that 5K every day just to realize that she needed to just get some work in. And actually, I've taken on, I don't know if we want to call it the Morfitt diet or the Morfitt training regime, which is just do something of some significance every single day. So I actually went on for a while there and just decided to do like a minimum of, I live in a very hilly area, so 5K, 4K is good enough. So I did doing 4Ks every day, just trying to get myself back into shape to play AFL again for next season. But I think, yeah, she kind of inspired me in that way. So that's definitely a really good storyline. Look, let's be honest. I'll take the hat off for this one to make it a little less ridiculous, but not ridiculous, but a little less bent in our direction. But I had to say the Sydney Swans season for sure. Going from 0 wins all the way through second week of finals. What are you going to say? And not only just the way that the team did it, because when you get good players, good things can happen. It was coached so well, and the team, everyone on every part of the team did really, really well. It was also the way that the crowd got around it as well, the way that Sydney Swans fans got involved. I mean, we have someone here who would know firsthand about what that means to people, or what that means to the players on the ground when they hear everyone going off and little girls going absolutely screaming up. What it meant was really, really special, because not only, like I said earlier, did my dad get into the game on the back of it, and my mum's also a big Swans fan and trying to drag her out to the games for forever. My partner's also getting into it. And when I'm at the game and I'm hearing little girls kick off the Sydney chant, there's nothing better than that. And as someone who's lived in Sydney my entire life, and finally see AFL really driving into Sydney almost through AFLW, like all over again, can't say enough about it. So that storyline, not only what the girls did on the pitch, but also what the club did behind the scenes rather, and how the whole Sydney and also South Melbourne fans got behind it. superb. So that for me was a really special thing, and I'm hoping Sydney can be the Geelong, the Collingwood of the AFLW, and we just start dominating with like just fan votes for everything for absolutely no reason. You know what I mean? We just start killing these things. So that's where I'm hoping we end up.
Well, I definitely I was wondering if you would go there, and I'm kind of glad that you did. But I'm gonna broad brush it. I'm gonna broad brush mine a little bit, just so that
Yeah,
we
please.
don't have a complete repeat. And that is the improve. And that for me, the biggest thing that I have to say with the best story is the improvement of the competition. Like
That's a great
this
call. Right,
year, if
great
you
call.
really, if
Yeah.
you really, really look at it this year, from probably spot 4, maybe even 5, all the way down to 18, there is not a lot of difference between even the Western Bulldogs, yes, who I know had a horrid season, but they were competitive in a lot of games. They ran out of steam because they just ran out of horses as the year went on. And then you look at it, GWS again, it was kind of the same thing, injury troubles and just a little bit of inconsistency. But after that, Essendon, Geelong, Sydney, Hawthorn, Port, how many games were so close? Gold
3-0.
Coast. I
Yeah.
mean, Port Adelaide plays in a draw with Gold Coast. Gold Coast makes the finals. Port Adelaide finishes 16th. It just shows you the
Yeah.
parity of this league. It's getting better. And I know there was a ton of people when the PSP period was signed. It was one of the things that I remember seeing all over is this is hurting the league. You're stealing our players. And I kept telling people this is going to even the competition out. I understand that you're frustrated, but we are going through the teething processes of getting this competition off the ground. Okay. This is only the 8th season of this competition. It is nowhere near what it's going to be in the next 10 years. It is going to keep growing. You're seeing people now yelling, why wasn't Marvel Stadium used for the grand final? I don't mind this argument. Do I understand why it was that it was an icon? Absolutely. Scheduling. And my favorite part, well, they should have had the foresight to let everybody know that Marvel. No, we don't know that, because what if Brisbane would have hosted the grand final? Can't play it at Marvel. That's not Brisbane. What if Adelaide would have hosted the grand final? Can't play it at Marvel. That's not Adelaide. So I love that people are getting upset that the game isn't at a bigger venue. I like that, because then that means people are passionate. They want things to happen. I really, really love that. But the thing that you got to say there is we've got to build demand for these tickets. We've got to build demand for this competition, because the more that you do, the more it's going to put pressure onto the ability for the AFL to go, hey, you know what? Let's see if we can keep Marvel open. So if a Victorian-based team gets the grand final, they can play it at Marvel. If a Sydney team gets there, could we get it at the SCG or Giant Stadium potentially? Even though I think if you ask my two co-hosts
do
here,
it at
Henson Park would be perfect for a grand final. Even Coach Gowan said that. I will not disagree with that at all.
The home of the AFLW, Henson Park.
I love it. But it's the parody. I loved it. I mean, you see, like I said, Chloe Malloy, Lucy McAvoy, Laura Gardner all joined the Swans, and some incredible improvement from the Swans. Look at how well they came into the competition. They were pushing. Brisbane got pushed in that game against it. Yes, it got away a little bit at the end of the game. They were pushing teams that were, if you look at it, they shouldn't have pushed, but they did. So for me, it was the story of the year is the improvement again. Each and every season that I have had the pleasure of watching this competition, I see more and more people going, you know what, this is really good footy. This is really good to watch. Like you're starting to see, and I love a friend of mine over here who's a huge advocate as well. You're starting to see knuckle draggers disappear online. You're starting to see less and less of these people. Well, this is shit footy. I don't want to watch this. You're starting to see less and less, and you're starting to see AFLers going, this is really good footy. I mean, when Dangerfield is complaining about no calls in a preliminary final, that is great. I love that AFLers are starting to tweet about it. I absolutely love it. And again, maybe it's the vision of the men for the Swans being there at North Sydney Oval when the girls won, and then the joy as they're high-fiving, giving them hugs. I remember joking with Brianna because I said, I'm jealous of you. You got to hug a couple of the men on the team.
They should be jealous.
Exactly.
That's right.
So it's one of those. I loved the improvement of the competition. I think there's so much there. And as I'm sitting here talking to you guys, I have the draft guide for this next draft up here, and I'm reading some of these girls that are coming in this next season are absolute jets. They're absolute superstars. This competition is rocketing up, and I cannot wait. So for me, the biggest story is another great year of improvement in this competition for sure. Again, I could do my red hat and go, yeah, and obviously the story is Sydney, no wins, and then they make the grand final. That's the easy one for me.
Well, that's my job to do that as a heavy AFL Sydney Swans supporter, and as exclusively doing a Sydney Swans podcast and actively telling everyone that we are biased as hell. So that's my job to do that. And I'm glad that Donnie went the correct route and explained clearly and correctly the growth of the competition and just the quality of it. And I guess, Brianna, a question for you: do you feel that? Do you feel the sense that the game is getting faster and faster? Are you seeing that on your side, or are you just trying to keep up and it's always just been a bit of a blur?
I think really, and I think the league went to a whole nother level this year. I think, obviously scoring went up, all that sort of stuff. But I think, I guess a big focus point, what we were saying in the locker rooms, was make the most of the crowd that has come here to support you. And, every single time we ran, like, you guys were so loud. And just the feeling of this whole, like, Henson Park being packed, like, in a sense, like, you're very much wrapped around this big Swans fan team, and there's just the support there. And I say it's starting to take its first steps from the ground and that sort of stuff. But even like from the physical demands of the game, as a defender, where you get the goals kicked on you, the way the ball's entering in, the power that girls are getting stronger. So the power that girls are getting in their legs to be able to kick it further, and the accuracy to sort of hit someone a little bit more on the top, on the chest, or in front of, basically right in their eyes, is improving. And it does make it harder to make yourself look good as a back, but I guess that's what people want. You want to be able to cheer more because your team's kicked a goal. Like, that's what really, people celebrate, is when you add an extra 6 points on the board. But then again, like, how do we honestly, like, felt the support that we were getting from, obviously, coaching stuff and all that sort of stuff, but from an external point of view, like, the amount of times my inbox was flooded, after every game, was just some little positive reminder of how good we're going. And, the improvement just kind of really, like, makes things lighter. You don't feel so much pressure because people are supporting you. And I think the AFLW is such a very raw market, and maybe a very what's the word, like, modern game of football. Whereas, the men's is very traditional. You rock up to the game, you watch the football, you go home, that sort of thing. Like with the AFLW, if you've been to Henson, there's love heart sunnies, face paint, lots of, you bring the local businesses in, and, you have fireworks, and, a huge guard of honor with so many kids running out, and being able to be firsthand with a player and the player with the fans is something that I would say is a very modern game of AFL.
Definitely, for sure.
That's a really great insight. Yeah.
And I've said it numerous times. I think the women connect with the fans just a little bit more. And I think it's not just the fact that they're played in more suburban grounds to where it's a little bit easier to get access. I mean, no offense to the SCG, the MCG, the Adelaide Oval, Optus Stadium. There's almost this gap between the fans and where the players are. There isn't as much closeness. It's like you go to a game at Victoria Park, at Henson Park, North Sydney Oval, Springers up in Brisbane. There is very little separation between where the players are and where the fans are. And to see the videos of all the social media, I try to follow most of the teams on social media. The the little girls with the signs. Could I get your autograph? Could I get a selfie with you? The new obsession is, can I get your boots? Which I find is absolutely hilarious. That so many people want
Stop stealing my boots. Yeah.
Exactly. Like I remember listening to the tag
wore 'em in.
podcast. Well, I listen to the tag podcast the AFL does, and Ruby Slicer's like, I can't give you my boots. They're special for my feet. So it's hilarious. So it's there's a raw connection between the fans and the women that I think that you just don't have in the men. And I think it's one of those that you kind of have to nurture and let go and continue, because I think it'll only make this competition that much stronger. I mean, we can all see all these little girls that are at these games that you can tell they're inspired by the women that they're watching. But I'll say this, the Collingwood game, the young men behind the one goals to the left of screen and them getting the Sydney chant is even more inspiring. To see young boys inspired by these women, that is exactly what I want to see. So that is absolutely magnificent. So we'll go to it. Go ahead, Brenna.
I was going to say, I think in that same game, when we were kicking towards like the change rooms, there were probably about 10 or 15 young boys behind me. I'm sitting there and, making daisy chain in the, square. And yeah, probably about 10 or 15 just boys just chanting there. And, you can't help but just turn around and give them a wave or a thumbs up. And like, they loved it too, but them screaming at you behind you, and you're like, they're supporting me and they're supporting these people. And yeah, it's feeling a lot more.
Yeah, it's awesome. I just that was one of my favorite moments is that Collingwood game, and they were behind the one, like I said, the screen was to the left, and they were banging on the thing, Sydney. So I absolutely love it. So I thought that was great, and seeing more and more of that is absolutely magnificent. So we'll go to it. The coup d'etat game of the year. What is your game of the year? We will start with you, Chris. What's the game that, if you got to go back and watch one more time, what is your game of the year?
All right. I haven't at one point during this podcast suggested that I'm not biased as hell. Okay. So let me just put my hat on one more time.
I knew he was going to. That's why I wanted to let him have first.
Show my Tarrant bracelet one more time. Definitely the first game for the Sydney Swans down there at North Sydney Oval against the Giants. First win for the Sydney. And I guess, I mean, apart from the fact of being there and just the surprise and everything and just the emotion that went with it, I think it was just a really good thing, not only for the club, but also for the game, and to see the men's go out there and give the girls a great big hug and everything, and make sure they were there and supported and everything. And the crowd was basically a sellout. And, that wicked goal by Malloy, and of course, Tarrant's own expertise down back to keep it nice and solid. So, and then Morford basically just coming out of nowhere and then doing something. And we're just like, hang on, what's going on here? This is just wild. Who is this girl? So I think that was for me a really special game. I could watch that a lot of times, coming back from the way they did, being stingy as hell in that back line and just being offensive, and just felt like they gave everything to it. And then the crowd, just the noise. Like, I've been to lots of games. I've been lots of men's games. I've been to all the women's Sydney Swans AFL games, bar like 2 so far, home games for sure. And the noise that erupted after that game was up there, was really up there. And it was super special. And the crowd, the energy at the pub later after that game had finished was just amazing. Just everyone in the mood that it put everyone in, everyone felt they had a really special moment that you'd locked down in your lives and locked that away in key in the back of your head for a long time. Yeah, can't say enough about it. I'd watched that a fair few times.
Yeah, not surprising on that one, Brianna. I gotta see that.
Sorry,
again, I don't mean that at all as a diss. Because when we get to it, I'll do one is my non-biased, the coaching podcaster, and then my completely biased one I'll do in just a little bit. But we'll go.
I'll try to give a non-biased one. But
sure.
Yeah, I'll give you.
You want to think about it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Brianna, we'll go to you.
I have to probably give it to last week's final between Adelaide and North. I think that was a phenomenal game of footy. Just the way it was tight the whole time, but you still saw both teams, one, yes, being stingy and playing really hard footy, but two, like playing their game styles really well. And yeah, I think obviously the better team won, but both teams were equally deserving to play in that grand final yesterday. But yeah, the way that ended for Adelaide to come down second best in that game, like you wouldn't say they didn't try hard in that. And even knowing a few people, like supporters down in Melbourne, it wasn't just North fans and Adelaide fans at that game. There was just a community of AFLW fans and AFL fans and, you know, the future of footy at that game as well. So just to see a whole heap of people come and watch that weren't necessarily supporters of either teams, but just be there to watch a good game of footy was, yeah, pretty special.
Yeah, definitely agree with you on that one. So, all right, we'll come to me on this one. I'm one of those. I actually have two for my non-bias, and one of them, Brianna just said, the preliminary final between Adelaide and North Melbourne, absolutely chef's kiss, fantastic game of footy. But I also have to say their home and away clash at Adelaide at Norwood Oval. OMG, because I remember watching that game right after the Western Bulldogs game between Sydney and the Western Bulldogs. I went, I can't not watch this because this is two absolute cracker teams and I had the pleasure of listening to Wharf Radio and a good friend of mine, Phil Aspinall out of South Australia, who was calling it. So I kind of synced it up, listening to the radio broadcast while watching the Vision. And this game was just superb quality footy. And for it to end the way it did with Neve Kelly getting a disposal out the back and kicking a goal to win the game with like 90 seconds left in the game was absolutely insane. I remember talking with a few of my Crows mates who I go back and forth with. They were going absolutely bonkers in the stands at Norwood Oval. It was absolutely insane. So I have to say both of those. I can't really separate the two because North and Adelaide they just played two really good games against each other this season. It was absolutely magnificent. And with the preliminary final, I think there's almost the one moment is Anne Hatchard's screamer when she went full Tony Maudra in the goal square. Legit could not believe what I was watching. I'm wondering if she kind of rushed the kick after, but she put it through, but it was kind of interesting. But it was just such great quality footy. Like this is two really, really good teams going at it, and they played really, really well. So I can't separate the two. So the home and away game between North and Adelaide, and I believe it's round 8, and then their preliminary final would be my two. And then I'll do it. I'll don my red hat and I'll say this. I'm going to go just a little bit different. As much as I absolutely love the GWS game because I had tears running down my eyes after that game was over. I will openly admit that. I was sitting on my couch I almost fell off my couch when Chloe Malloy kicked her wonder goal where she sat Alicia Eva on the candy cell. But for me, it was the final.
Yeah.
The elimination final with Gold Coast, because how many fans got up to the Gold Coast and were there? I mean, and I must say this, Deb Malloy, Chloe Malloy's mom, is an absolute legend. Like I absolutely love her to death. Rocking the Heart Sunnies, absolutely going nuts for her daughter. Absolutely thought that was fantastic. But it was just a game of so many great moments. Chloe Malloy giving it to the sledger with the great hand gesture, which I'm still trying to figure out how you do that after kicking a goal and not stuffing it up, like legitimately. That was absolutely
I was like, that's a great point. I was like, I'd be like, too. I'd be like, oh, hang on, what's that?
Hold on, what's two plus
hang on, if I did this, no, hang on, like, yeah,
I need two hands. But it was just, I was worried going, like, I'll be 100% honest. I was worried going into that game because we were playing a Gold Coast team that had played really, really well, had just beat Essendon the round before. Yes, they didn't have Charlie Robot, but they played so well. I was sitting here going, Lucy Single had been talked about as this great tagger, and would Laura Gardner get tagged out of the game? Will it affect? We didn't have Ali Morfitt in this game against Lauren Bello, who's a really good rock. And just the team game in that game against Gold Coast was absolutely mental. I mean, the defense played really well. Ella Heads, Lucy McAvoy, Brianna Terrett, everybody on the back line played so well against a couple of monsters in Tara Bahana and Jack DePie. yes, terrible. Hannah kicked 4 goals, but really, you kept Jack DePie pretty damn quiet for such a good forward that she is. You played really, really well. The midfield played super well. Lisa Steen and Sophia Hurley on the wings kept their space, which really helped give some space for Laura Gardner to get away from Lucy Singles tag and still put up 30 disposals in that game. And then Beck Privatelli playing absolutely fantastic. There was Cynthia Hamilton. I could say every single name that played on the team that day. So for me, it was that win in the finals because I was so nervous going into that game. I knew that this is a free hit. It doesn't matter whether they won or lost because getting to the finals as an expansion team from the year before was the accomplishment. That's the accomplishment. The rest is icing on the cake. Whether the Swans did anything in that final didn't matter because that was the goal. You got to finals. You did something nobody expected you to do. Many people were tipping Sydney to be the wooden spooners this year. I can't tell you how many podcasts had Sydney. They'll win 1, they'll win 2, not much after that. I'll even admit it. I said 3. If they get 3 or more, I'd be happy. I would have been happy. So to make finals, perfect. But that final, that was my game of the year. Followed really closely by that GWS game. I
was at that game, and just the crowd that was all there. Everyone, like, I went up with Mum. It was pretty fun, and Polly, of course, and her partner, my partner in podcast crime. And to go to the game, and everyone that was there, like, just being 100% honest. I've just got to be honest. No one necessarily thought we're like, will the girls win? I'm like, I hope they do. And that was the comment. I hope they do. Like, they've got to put up a fight. First final, girls go out there and put up a fight. That's what we're expecting. And then from the very beginning, it was just like, hang on, like, this is happening. And I've never seen a more rancid crowd in my life. It was amazing. That Swans crowd was just insane. They were crazy. They were absolutely crazy. And lots of family, lots of mums just going bananas. It was just grand. So yeah, that was a great game. A really great game. It was just super special. Can't say enough.
Hey, you got to do this. I know Polly's not on the podcast. I almost asked her on, but what you got to tell Brianna, what did Polly give Tom Hurley? Tom Harley, yeah.
Harley, I don't know. I think because we had to make sure that because she made a bunch of them for all the players, and she made some generic ones as well. So she started going up to like the media crew and then started giving out like, what name do you want? And you can't go up to Tom Harley and go, who's your favorite player? Because what he's going to say. He's been media trained more than anyone else in the freaking world. So he wasn't going to be doing that. So we had to give him like a standard Go Swans one. Yeah, so we had to be a bit gentle there. But by the time we got rid of those ones, then we had to start giving out actual named ones. And so there's probably a few media people there in the team over there that probably have players' names on it. So you can start giving them a bit of shit to help yourself. Yeah.
Hang on. What's that? No.
Excuse me, what's going on here? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I remember seeing the Bevy of Bloods podcast, the Twitter, Instagram. They showed Polly giving Tom Harley a friendship bracelet. I'm like, that is epic. That is absolutely epic. It just shows you how
Gowan's
awesome
one as well. That was pretty fun. He's a great sport. Gowan's is a good fella. Yeah.
Absolutely love it. Well, okay, now that we've had a ton of fun again, I don't want this to end, but unfortunately we're at the end of the season, end of the podcast. This has been absolutely incredible, but I got to give this, Brianna, I know we had talked about something on the podcast. You actually have a question for Chris.
Yeah. I forget it though.
What did I tell you he had to do because the Swans made finals?
Oh, your tattoo.
Yes.
Your ink, mate. Your
the ink. No, not yet. The ink has been chosen, however. And so just now it's a matter of the execution. The tricky bit, because this is my first ever tattoo. So although I've always wanted to have one, in a way, I've also just ummed and ahed by it. So I figured I got to make sure that I get the setup right. So what I'm actually going for is the Indigenous Black Swan logo on the old leg, so that I can show a bit of leg when someone asks me. If you're at the pub and you go, hey, have you got a tattoo? I've got an opportunity to take those pants off and show them some tattoos. So that's where I'm heading with that one.
Oh
Awesome,
yeah.
awesome. And we also have to wait because Polly also agreed to it. So we'll have to make sure that Polly follows through.
I don't want to push Polly. I don't know what's going on there, but I've asked. But
Live video.
yeah,
Live stream
that
it.
live stream. We'll see how we do. Okay, yeah, go to Cambodia and just get someone to do little nail one or something in there. Yeah, it might be a bit tough, but yeah. So we're definitely looking at getting it done, but I just got to work out at this point. It's a long time between now and the season starting. So yeah, might as well do something. Might as well do something during the time. Think about it.
Oh, we will definitely keep an eye on that. So that is going to do it. I had to have that opportunity because I remember telling her, and I was like, "Yep." I said my other co-host on here is going to get a tattoo because you ladies made finals. So she's like, "I'm gonna have to ask him." So I had to set
You have
that
to
one up a little bit. So
blame Donnie because at the time when it was mentioned, then Polly just goes, "Oh, I was thinking about getting that too," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do it." And then that was it. We're locked in, and then Donnie was there as witness, so like it all
Mhm.
happened. So you
Yep.
can blame him for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
I'm not
wasn't.
blaming you for anything.
Yeah, I wasn't
I am.
going to go that far. I wasn't going to go that far when it comes to it, but so. All righty. Well, I think this is a perfect time to shut her down. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for the podcast. So, again, Brianna, enjoy your off season. Hopefully, everything goes well. You enjoy your off season. We cannot wait to see you back again next year. And again, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast.
I'm always around. No stress. Love being on here.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Chris, as usual, again, mate, it's always great to chat with you. And thank you so much. And keep up the great work with the Bevy of Bloods podcast.
Absolutely, my friend. And yeah, look forward to next year's long and beautiful historic season, no doubt.
I cannot wait. And that is going to do it for another episode of Donnie's Disposals. Thank you again. Again, keep an eye out. Off-season supporter series coming. I've got some fans lined up from the Sample and the Waffle and a couple of very fun chats. One with a super fan from Collingwood and from an international fan that supports the Swans that I've always wanted to sit down and have a chat with. Keep an eye out. That will be my off-season supporter series to get us to March till the AFL and the competitions in the state leagues and the AFL are back. So that'll do it for another Donnie's Disposals. We'll be back again very soon with more footy coverage here on Donnie's Disposals.